In today's quick video, we'll be repairing the result of my own incompetence. This is my Monitor Audio Bronze C150 centre speaker, and I absolutely love this. I made a video a few years ago where I replaced all my surround sound speakers with ones from the Monitor Audio Bronze 6th generation line, including the centre speaker, and they've been absolutely amazing for years. However, if you look at this now, you'll see there's a bit of a nasty dent or scratch on one of these drivers. Try and hold it up closer to see it. It maybe doesn't look as bad on camera as it actually is, but you can see there's a pretty nasty dent in that driver. Now, while I'd love to say, I don't know, I was heroically saving a puppy and damaged it, I wasn't. I would just be a complete idiot. I was fishing around in the ceiling trying to work out a cable route, which you might be seeing a future video on that, it should be quite interesting. So I'd pulled some of the downlights down and I was fishing some cable rods around trying to figure out where I could get cables. And when I'd finished, I tossed one of the cable rods down on the couch, where it sort of vaulted end over end, and the metal end on it, like that, whacked off the driver. I didn't even see it happen, but while I was up the ladder, I heard the noise, and turns out this hitting a speaker driver is a very distinctive sound, and I immediately knew what had happened. And sure enough, when I looked round, there was this massive dent in one of the drivers. So after I'd finished swearing, I thought, well, we need to work out how to fix this. So what we'll do is we'll take the driver out and take a look at the damage, and then we'll look at how we're going to fix it. So, turns out these speakers are actually surprisingly serviceable, which is really nice to see. Because they could have easily made these all glued in and really hard to fix, or trims you had to peel off that you would never get back on. But they're actually pretty easy to fix. So first of all, we'll try and get the damaged driver out. Now, ultimately it works perfectly fine. I've been using it for a good few weeks with the damage and it's not really caused a problem. But the problem with these speakers is they look really nice without the grille on. So I want to be able to see those drivers. I mean, I bought these for the, partially for the looks. So having that big dent there really isn't good. So if we turn the speaker around, what you'll see on the back is obviously the binding posts that connect it up. And you'll see these two big sort of hex, Allen key, hex head bolt things. And when I first got this, I remember taking one of these out, thinking this was like a way you could take this out and use it for like a mount. And then when I took it out, the driver fell out. I was like, oh God, that's not good. And put it back together. So to get the driver out, all you need to do is remove this bolt. So what we'll do is we'll just use an Allen key in the back there, put it in there, and undo it. Now, of course, as soon as you start doing this, the driver's going to want to start falling out, so you want to be quite careful and support it. So if I do that and then loosen this off, we'll be able to take the driver out. And yeah, it is really nice being able to see that this is actually serviceable. So undo that screw, holding the driver in at the front. How I do it. Quite a long screw thread, but if we get that out, there we go, pull that bolt out like that, massive long bolt comes out, and then now the driver will just come out the speaker. So ease it forward like that, there's a sort of plastic gasket that's sort of stuck on there, that comes out. Around here you can see there's a pair of spade connectors holding it on, so connecting it, so all you do is pull those off. So that comes off there, and that comes off there. So now we have the damaged driver out, and as you can see, yep, that is quite badly bashed, which is very unfortunate. So when this first happened, I kind of had a bit of hope that I could hopefully fix it quite easily, because this isn't the first time I've bashed this speaker. I'm not very smart. And annoyingly, the one I bashed the first time wasn't this one, it was the other one, which was great. Now the other one was a lot less damaged. I can't remember exactly what I did. I think I was disconnecting cables from the back of the TV and one of the cables sort of flipped around the front and tapped it. And it put a bit of a dent in it, but not nearly as bad as that. And maybe if I hold up the light, you can just about make out a slight mark there. When it happened, it was actually quite a big dent, but as you can see now, it's barely visible. It's basically completely smooth to touch, and it's just a little scuff on the surface now. And when it sits where it does, you literally don't see it. You have to lie on the floor and look for it to see that damage, so I don't really mind. But when that happened, it was easy enough to fix, because all I did was take the driver out, find where the dent was on the back, and it was quite visible, and just gently massage it with my fingernail like that, and that was enough to smooth it all out and basically get rid of the dent to the extent that you don't really see it. It's just bad luck that the one I damaged this time was this one. However, unfortunately, so I initially thought, well, that's what I'll do. However, this time the damage is right in the centre, and if you look under there, you can see it's where the coil connects to the cone, and you can't even see the dent on the underside, it's so far into the centre. So it would be impossible to get in there and try and fix it that way. It's just, there's no way you could fix that. So really the only option is to replace this driver. So when I realised that I basically had to replace the driver, the next thing I did was take down one of my surround speakers. So these are the Bronze FX, and they're really good surround speakers. And if you take the front grille off here, you'll see that it uses a basically identical looking driver. And while this speaker looks really good without the front grille, so I thought, well, I want to be able to have this with the grille off, even though if I had the grille on, I probably wouldn't have done this damage. If you look at the Bronze FX, it really looks dreadful without the grills, so I would never have the speaker without the grills on it. So I thought, well, what I'll do is I'll take the driver out of this and put it in this one. So all I did was flip this around. It's a very similar idea. There's just another screw in the back. So you just undo that. Carefully holding the driver in. It's a much smaller screw this time, which is a bit easier to take out. So if we take that out, I pop the driver out of this in the exact same way as I did on the other one. This one may be requiring a bit of effort to get out. I might poke the bolt in the back just to release it. There we go. So all I did was take the driver out of this speaker. Being very careful because this one isn't damaged. Popped it out. Oh, disconnected it, as I did before. And then when I looked at that, I thought, great, that's the same driver, and went to put it in. And then I looked more closely. If you look on the back of this driver, you see it has 4 ohms impedance. The driver that came out the centre speaker is 8 ohms. They're different drivers. And I suppose it's probably because the centre speaker has 2 drivers in it, this has 1. I don't know what drivers are in my Bronze 50 left and right front speakers. I suspect that might be 4 ohms because they've only got one driver, but yeah, they're not compatible, which is very annoying. So at that point, after even more swearing, I dug around online in a sort of last-ditch attempt, thinking there's no way I'm going to be able to get a replacement driver for this, and then found that you can actually buy replacement drivers for these, which is something I really didn't expect. So I got this from a place called Orton's AV. It seems like a sort of small AV store, but they have a section of spare parts, and they sold a replacement driver for this for £75, which isn't cheap, but equally when you factor in that this centre speaker costs £300 and it's got 2 of those drivers, £75 isn't really unreasonable. Like, to replace both these drivers would be half the price of the speaker, but you know, it's not actually that bad a deal, it seems. Now, equally, I potentially could have gone directly to Monitor Audio. I did see some stuff on Reddit with people saying that Monitor Audio have a really good spares department. You can easily buy spares from them. But at the time that this happened, I just wanted a new driver, so I just bought the one I could easily buy online. But if this did happen to you and you damaged a driver and Orton's didn't have the right part, you know, they didn't have the one for your speaker or whatever, you could potentially go to Monitor Audio and buy the part, which is really nice. You know, in a world of everything being locked down and parts being closely guarded, the fact that I can just buy a replacement driver for this for £75 and fix it myself is really, really good. It's really refreshing. I suppose it's just because maybe sort of higher end hi-fi speaker type stuff hasn't gone the same way as basic consumer electronics. So in this box, in theory, we should have a new driver. So if we open that up, take it out, and there we go. That's a brand new driver for the speaker. So all we should need to do is put this in. So if take this out, check the back. Yep, it's 8 ohm, that's good. I was a bit worried because I was thinking if they sent me a 4 ohm one by mistake, it would be the wrong one. But nope, there we go. A brand new 8 ohm driver. And if you look at the front, you can see, yep, those are identical, apart from this one isn't scratched. So that's great. So all we need to do now is, well, put this driver into that speaker and put this back together. But before we do that, what I'll do is I'll very quickly just get the drivers out of the way, and we'll just take a look inside each speaker, just because I sort of do tear down videos every so often, and it'll kind of be interesting to see what's inside each of these. So we'll take a look inside, and then we'll get the new driver put in. So first of all, let's take a look at the construction of the Bronze FX. So it seems pretty nice. So if you see around the back here, sort of showing the back of this in my other video, but you can see you've got binding post here to connect it, and this switch here, it switches between bipole and dipole, which is basically whether the left and right speakers are in phase or out of phase, and there's various reasons why you might want one or the other. And if you look in here, what you can see, obviously there are loads of foam in here, sort of MDF type construction. And then if you look inside, you can see you've got the 2 tweeters there, you've got one there and one there. Different colours of wires for each. I suspect that's probably because of the being able to make them in phase and out of phase, you need to make sure it's the right way around. Maybe. Would that make a difference? Not sure. But anyway, you've got the two tweeters there. Now, these seem to be mounted, I can see sort of some just screws going through the wood there. So these seem to be screwed in from the front, but this grill seems like it's just stuck on. I'm not going to try and take it off, but I think it's just stuck on, so you could probably take that off and then presumably screws there to get the tweeter out. And I think you could buy replacement tweeters on that website, I'm not sure. And what's also quite smart is they've cut a notch out here that matched up with a notch on the driver. So when you put the driver in, you can get it sort of the right way up, because these have the Monitor Audio logo printed in the corner of each driver. So also you want to kind of make it easy to align, especially in the factory. So that's quite clever how they've done that there. And down the bottom there, you can see the main circuit board. So that's just going to really be a crossover. Nothing really much more to it than that. And then you can see those cables and those little wires there go to the switch. That's the switch between bipole and dipole. That goes to the circuit board as well, and that'll handle the switching. Now, this circuit board seems fairly easy to get out. It looks like it's just screwed to this back panel here. So I'm not going to do it. It looks like you just need to undo these screws. This whole panel would come out and the circuit board would come out attached to that. So yeah, that seems pretty easily serviceable, which is good. So all we need to do is put the driver back into this. So it's pretty easy to do, so I'll go and get the driver over, being very careful because obviously these are easy to damage. I don't want to damage this one because this has absolutely nothing wrong with it. And if I damage a speaker purely making a video, that would be very annoying. Now, what's quite smart with this is when I first took it apart, I went, oh God, how do I know which way these go round? But what they've actually done is one of these has a larger spade connector, one has a smaller one. So it actually makes it really easy to match them up. You're not looking at symbols, you're not trying to match colours up. You're literally putting the correctly sized connector on the correctly sized terminal, which is really good. And I suppose this sort of thing is one of those things, doing that just makes it easier to assemble in the factory. You know, if it's people aren't having to look at little symbols, they're just literally putting spade connectors on, it makes it a lot easier. So now with those spade connectors on the back there, all we need to do is line up the notch on the speaker, which is there, with that notch at the top to get it centered correctly. Simply line up like that. Probably just lay it flat for this. Just line up like that. Get it so it's correctly positioned. And once it's lined up, it just drops in like that. Then all I need to do is get the Allen key, get the screw that came out the back, stand up carefully, making sure the driver doesn't fall out, like that, and then just very carefully put the screw in the back and screw it in. So just get that in there, screw it in the back, and that's this one back together. So now the speaker I took apart completely needlessly is now reassembled. Like that. So now before we put it back together, let's take a quick look at the C150, see how it's built inside. So as you can see, obviously the driver's missing at the front. Round the back, it's the same as we've probably shown before. So you've got the two binding posts there. They're linked by these sort of metal bars. That basically means you can take those links out and separately drive the tweeters and the woofers from separate amplifiers. You can bi-amp it. I've got linked together because I've only got one cable going to this, so that's fine. So that's on the back there. And then around the front, you need to be very careful because the last thing I want to do is drop it and break the other driver. You can see inside. So looking inside there, you can kind of see at the back, you've got one big circuit board really in there. And while this doesn't come out the back of the case, it does seem pretty well designed. So it seems like it's screwed just into the wood, but it's screwed in such a way that you'd be relatively easy enough to get a screwdriver in there, undo those screws, and take it out through one of the speaker holes. So that would be easy enough to take out if you did need to service that board. And yeah, that board in there, I'm not an audio expert, but that just looks like a bog standard crossover really. Although interestingly, the whole board seems to be covered with some sort of lacquer. Like there's a whole sort of like glossy lacquer over absolutely everything. So maybe that's just to protect it from corrosion or something. But yep, that's all you've really got there, and there's no circuit board on the other side at all. Now the tweeter in here, I suspect is similar to take out. I'm not going to risk it because, especially on this one where this little grill is permanently on show, I'm not going to try and take this off and risk damaging it. But again, it looks like this would presumably come off, but definitely would do research before doing that. But I presume this grill would come off and it would unscrew from the front. But yep, pretty standard. So all we need to do is get a new driver in and check it all works. So here we have my new driver that I will carefully lift over because if I damage this putting it in, I'll be very annoyed. Connect up as before. So small one and small one, it's the exact same as the other one where the terminals are sort of size coded almost. Put those on there. Find the little notch at the top to line up with, yep, the notch up there. Put that in, and then that'll go in. And then what we need to do is then get the bolt in the back. So if we can carefully line that up there, maybe get the bottom in first, get that in. Yep, that's in there flush now, which is good. So now all we need to do is put the big bolt in the back. So I've noticed this is sitting slightly prouder than the other speaker when it's in there, but taking it out and looking, what it seems is this obviously has foam on the back to obviously absorb vibrations, and you can see there's foam on the old speaker as well. But on this old speaker, that foam is basically non-existent. It's like completely flat, whereas on the new speaker it's quite thick. So I suspect it's just because on the old speaker the foam's compressed over the years, or just compressed by the tightness of this going in. So we'll put this bolt in, and hopefully that'll just bring it together and it'll squish that foam down and bring the driver in flush. So we'll go and try that. Now, this is actually probably the hardest part of the whole process, which sounds silly, putting a screw in. But the problem is that this is a very long bolt, and you're basically trying to screw it into the back of the driver here, all the way at the front. Now that doesn't sound like a problem, you know, that should be fairly easy to do. However, the problem is that on a speaker driver, this isn't just metal, it's a magnet. So the problem is what you're trying to do is put this through the back of the speaker and get it into that screw hole, but every time you do it, it wants to get attracted to the magnet and go anywhere other than in the screw hole. So it's really fiddly to do. You've got to be very, very precise and try and get it in to hit that hole and not stick to the magnet. It's a very frustrating process. So I'm probably not going to be able to do it on camera. It's a really, really fiddly process. Just because if I try and put that in there, it's just going to completely stick to the magnet. But if you're careful enough and get it in at a good enough angle, you will be able to do it. So what I'll do is I'll go away off camera, try and get that into the thread, and then we can tighten it up. Okay, so I think I've been able to get it in. It turned out it was easiest to put it on its front and then try and drop it straight down, but even then it's taken me, you know, probably about 5-10 minutes to get that in there. It's really, really fiddly. But now that's in there, you should just be able to tighten it up, and probably need to get it super tight to squish that foam down. I also noticed that under this screw on the back, even the wood, or the laminate on the wood, is slightly compressed, so this probably needs to be very, very tight. So we'll get that in there nice and tight, and then hopefully that driver will move and sit flush with the front. So now, moment of truth, let's flip this right way up and see if that driver is now flush. So get that there. Oh, feels like it is. That's good. Yep, there we go. New driver's in, and that is now, yep, that's completely flush with the front. Because I was a bit worried there, thinking there's no way that's going to go flush. But yep, it does. So you just need to get it nice and tight at the back. That compresses the foam down, and that driver will go in there completely flush. So there we go. In theory, I've now replaced that damaged driver. So all I need to do now is go and try it out and hope it works. Okay, so I've gone away, tried it out, and it works fine. Both these drivers work perfectly fine, sounds absolutely great, perfectly fixed. So yeah, very happy with it. And it's definitely now a lesson for me not to just randomly throw things around in the living room, because these speakers are very fragile, and even the slightest tap does really badly damage them. Now, on the one hand, I could have, and probably should have the grill on this, but the thing is the grills just don't look very good on these speakers. And one of the reasons I bought these is because they've got magnetic grills, so when you take them off, there's not even any sort of posts where the grills should go. They look really, really nice. So I think I'll just need to be extra careful, or potentially if I'm like doing anything in the room other than just like sitting watching TV, you know, doing any sort of construction or DIY project, just cover it up or put the grill on, because they're just so easy to damage. But yep, that was pretty easy to fix. And I suppose it shows the benefit of having parts available. You know, had this been like a, you know, an Apple product or really anything like that, or even parts from most modern consumer electronic manufacturers, you probably wouldn't be able to buy the part. Or you'd just be looking at like second-hand parts and stuff like that. And when I first started looking for drivers, my first port of call was eBay, because I thought the only place I could get one would be a second-hand part. But nope, I was able to go to an AV supplier and buy a brand new replacement driver. So, yep, £75 later, and we've replaced the badly dented driver with a brand new one. So hopefully you found that interesting or helpful. I mean, it's not been a super exciting video, but given I sort of just do teardowns and stuff anyway, I thought I may as well take these apart, show what's inside, show how to replace the driver. So yeah, hopefully you found it interesting, or potentially if you found this video trying to replace the driver on one of your speakers, hopefully you found it helpful to show how to replace it. So yeah, thank you very much for watching.